Hey, it's our weekly streaming show, and here's a sneak peek at our top streamer of the week. Once again, go get you some Sam Howell, still rostered in just 39% of Yahoo leagues, coming off a 3-touchdown performance victory over the Falcons last week. He's the QB 13 overall this season. He's the QB 4 over the last 3 games. He's been QB 13 or better in 5 out of 6 games. He just had that one awful game against Buffalo. Faces the Giants this week, who ranked 12th at AFPA to opposing quarterbacks. That's not a great matchup, but still, I'll keep recommending Howell until his rostership goes up 40%, even if I sound like a broken record. Now let's get to the show. Hello, and welcome to the most accurate podcast. I am one of your hosts, Brandon Niles, and with me is the excellent Jen Akins. Jen, how's it going, buddy?
It's going today. I have to say, it's going. It's been, an interesting start to the week. I had a good weekend though. I will say this. I want to tell you my son, who, as you know, is 14 and he's a freshman in high school. He went to his very first high school football game. He did the Friday Night Lights thing for the very first time, which is pretty cool. And as you know, he's not really a football fan, but he had fun. It was cool to kind of, see him experience that for the first time. It was homecoming, that kind of deal. So yeah, he had a good time. Their team won, who they were 1-5 going into the homecoming game. So he got to see his team win. So that was good. How are you on this wonderful Tuesday afternoon?
I'm doing good. Been pretty busy. I got in a fight with a 7-year-old about whether or not she had to go to school this morning that lasted 90 minutes. But otherwise, I guess nobody won. I'm just going to say she ended up in school. I'm going to say nobody won that battle, though. That's what I'm going to say. Hello to everyone in the chat. Samson, thank you so much for the nice comments. Hi, Albert. Thanks for coming in. Enjoy all of our wonderful listeners and the people that join us each week. Thank you so much. This is our streaming episode. So we highlight the quarterbacks, tight ends, kickers, team defenses that you can target this week for streaming options. As a reminder, we only discuss a streaming option if they're available in 40% or less of Yahoo leagues. So if your favorite option is not discussed, probably rostered in too many leagues. So quick question here. C-Dogs that asks if it's going to be Jordan Mason or Elijah Mitchell if CMC is out. I think it's going to be based on health. Elijah Mitchell's a little nicked up right now, so I would guess Jordan Mason. But if Mitchell's healthy, he's going to get touches. I don't think Mitchell's going to be okay this week. So Mason seems like the guy, but I also am not convinced CMC is going to miss the game. So that's kind of where I'm at with that C-Dog. Let's jump right into quarterbacks. It's a decent week aside from Sam Howell. I kind of like it. I'm going to start with Tyrod Taylor versus Washington. I was going to start with somebody else, but if you can hold off a little and just get a little more confirmation that Daniel Jones is out. It sounds like Daniel Jones is not coming back. It sounds like his neck injury is bad enough that they're concerned. So Tyrod Taylor plays against Washington. Washington, 25th in AFPA to opposing quarterbacks. He was the QB 19 in a low-scoring game against the Bills last week. That's a much worse matchup. Has a career 60-26 touchdown to interception ratio, so he doesn't really turn the ball over. Last week, ran the ball 5 times, so he has that rushing upside. I like him as my number 2 streaming option at quarterback this week, assuming that he starts, right? So long shot right now for Daniel Jones to come back, but make sure you've got some sort of backup plan in place if you go with Tyrod Taylor. The next guy I like, Baker Mayfield against the Falcons. He's nicked up, so another guy you want to make sure he's active before you roll with him. Maybe if you've got the roster space, grab Baker and Tyrod Taylor. But I think you should be safe with Taylor. Baker's coming off a bad game, but Howell just threw 3 touchdowns against the Falcons, I mentioned. They rank 16th in AFPA to opposing quarterbacks. And weeks 1 through 5, Baker's the QB 16 in fantasy points per game before a bad week last week. So I think he rebounds and continues to be pretty good. And then finally, I like Desmond Ridder a little. Bonehead plays aside. He's the QB4 over the past 2 weeks in fantasy. He's got the rushing upside. The Bucs are good defensively, so I don't love the matchup. They're 6th in AFPA to quarterbacks, but Jared Goff just lit them up, and running quarterbacks can score against them. Jalen Hurts did. Justin Fields did. Ridder has elite weapons around him. We know that, starting to find them a little bit by bit. Accompanied by some crippling errors, of course. But like I said, I don't love Desmond Ridder, but he's quietly turning into a streamable quarterback option in fantasy leagues. And if you'll notice, the Atlanta's pass rate over expectation quietly going from ridiculously last to just bad. So ridiculously last to like bottom third. It's a good projection moving forward.
Baby steps. That's all you need.
Right, just the little baby steps is all it is. So that's all I've got for quarterbacks this week, Jen. If you don't have any comments, do you have any comments on the quarterbacks this week? I saw that you mentioned a certain Steelers guy. I'm just nervous about the Steelers offense in general, which is why I didn't bring up Kenny Pickett. But when I say you mentioned, I mean in your awesome weekly or daily newsletter.
I was like, what? When did I mention Kenny Pickett? Yeah, I think I did mention him in there. I mean, they're coming back from a bye. He's an option.
It's
right?
a good matchup too.
That's kind of where we are. He's an option. I'm sorry if I keep looking this way. My cat is like fully burrowing into this Amazon package that I should have moved out of the way. I can't go make him stop. So
that's okay, Jen.
If the listeners hear crinkling, that is my cat. That is if anyone has a cat out there, they play with any kind of box or package. So
I think Twizzler just heard the rumors that Leonard Fournette may sign with the Bills.
That's the first thing I thought of when I saw those news, when I saw the news that he was meeting with the Bills, which is an interesting little. I mean, he's been holding out this whole time. I'm sure him and his management, I'm sure they've been having conversations, but we haven't been privy to them. I mean, it's been very quiet on his front for pretty much the whole preseason and the first 6 weeks of the season until now. So. Interesting.
Yeah, I thought Latavius Murray was playing just fine there, but we'll see. We'll see who he eats up. I don't think it really hurts James Cook. I think it probably hurts Murray. It's probably
right, exactly. Yeah, and we don't know. I mean, we don't know what he has left in the tank or on the tires or whatever expression you'd like to throw out there for an old running back.
Absolutely. Alex, thanks for joining us. Wonders if we have any words of advice for them. They're 1-5. Seems like the team just doesn't perform well. They have Devontae Adams, Devontae Smith, and Jalen Waddle. Second highest scoring team in a 10-team league. Any advice? I think those receivers will be okay. If you're the second highest scoring team, I think you're doing well. I think you just kind of have some bad matchup luck, unfortunately. Just keep working those waivers. Yeah. The Raiders are going to be really inconsistent. So if Adams has another blow-up week, I wouldn't hate selling high on him. But ultimately, I think you've probably got a pretty good team if you're scoring that well. What do you think, Jen?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, all three of those guys are underperforming, so it would make sense. But then again, when you say the second highest scoring team, then your team is clearly performing. You just happen to go against, I would assume, the highest scoring team the last few weeks or whatever. So I would just stay with it. I think all three of those guys, like you said, Adams, the Raiders are going to be inconsistent. I think Smith and Waddle will get theirs.
Yeah,
I hope.
I think so. I think eventually they'll get there. Phoenix Steven wants to know if they need to pick two between Tutu Atwell, Sam Laporta, and Josh Downs. Laporta, to me, is an automatic start. The other two, you could kind of go either way. I kind of like Downs. I think that the Colts are going to have to throw the ball, so I kind of like Downs. But you could talk me into Tutu. What do you think, Jen?
Yeah, I would go Downs on Laporta. I actually had Tutu was in my dead weight report this morning. I think he's droppable at this point. I just don't think there's enough there for all of them with cutback. So unfortunately, and listen, Tutu's a guy that he's going to have a couple spike weeks, right? But he's going to be super frustrating when you're trying to put him in your lineup every week. So I know that wasn't your question, but I agree with you, Laporta and Josh Downs as far as this week goes.
Excellent. Let's see here. Eric, hi, guys. I'm thinking of starting Desmond Ridder over Geno Smith. Your thoughts? Geno plays Arizona. It's tough. I like Ridder, but I got to play Geno against Arizona.
I was just going to say the same thing. I feel like it's Geno. I understand Geno has not played up to – we knew coming into the season that he could kind of turn into a pumpkin, but I don't think he's fully a pumpkin. I think he's fine. And I think this week at home against Arizona, I would go with him over Ridder.
Yeah, I think he's more squash-like right now. He's not quite a pumpkin. He's been a squash.
Small gourd.
Yeah, a small gourd. Alex followed up, said that they keep going up against random guys who have boom games. Absolutely annoying. I think we all know what it's like to go up against the Dolphins.
That's the worst part of fantasy football, period. I mean, and we've all been there. Last year, I was in a league. I think I was like third in points, and I didn't even make the playoffs. It's brutal, and it just unless you go to straight up rotisserie, there's no way to avoid that.
And I'm finding I have a case of the gens this year because I talked all year about how we should draft Raheem Mostert, and I don't have him in any of my I have him in a lot of best ball, but I don't have him in like any actual leagues that I follow and keep up with, unfortunately.
That's frustrating too. I actually have him in a guillotine league that is thriving tremendously because I also have Tyreek Hill. So we'll see week 10 when they're on a bye how my team does. But both of them are carrying that team every single week.
Crazy. All right, Matt Cash. I'm 4-2. Running backs are David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, Travis Etienne, and Take Bigsby. Wide receivers AJ Brown, Tyreek Hill, Keenan Allen. So set there. 12 team. Love the wide receiver. Someone offered Bijan Robinson for AJ Brown straight up. It's a PPR. I'm okay with that either way. I don't think you need to make the move. I think Etienne and Gibbs will be okay until Monty's back. And then when Monty's back, I think you can just do Etienne and Monty. But Bijan Robinson's catching a lot of balls. And if it's a PPR, I think that's okay. I don't know who the receiver is that steps in for you. If it's a 2-receiver league, I like it better than if it's a 3-receiver league. What do you think, Jen?
Yeah, your receivers are stacked, obviously, and you could afford to lose AJ Brown if you needed to. Yeah, it's tough that your four running backs are on 2 teams. That's not an ideal thing because when you have bye weeks and stuff, it makes it tough. So, but I think what Brandon said. I think you'll be fine with Etienne and Gibbs, and then once Monty gets back. So, I think that's an either or. Like it depends on really, but. Like he said, if there's only 2 wide receivers, if you start 3, I would stick with what you have. Mm-hmm. Depending, of course, on what your bench depth is. We don't know that. But.
Mm-hmm. All right. It's a 1 flex 2 wide receiver league. Yeah, then I like it better than if it's a 3 wide receiver league. So yeah, I think you can go either way. Phoenix Steven, should they drop Tank Dell, Tutu Atwell, Marvin Mims, or Salvin Ahmed for Niners backfield guys and Zach Evans? If you could get Jordan Mason for dropping Tutu Atwell, I like that. I don't really care about Zach Evans personally, but Jen might have a better opinion.
No, I don't. I know people clamor for, whatever's out there on the waiver wire every week. I don't know. I can take or leave Zach Evans. I kind of agree. I like Ahmed. I don't think he's, I think it's comparable, really. Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess it depends. I shouldn't say that. But I think Atwell, Mims are both droppable.
Yeah. I agree, which sucks because I want Mims to be. He's just not getting the snaps.
He's not. And that offense is just not performing as they should. And for some reason, even though when he does get the snaps and he does get his number called, he's good. They just don't, he's out there running sprints or doing nothing. It's bizarre.
It's really crazy. Corey Jackson wants to know what we think of Justin Herbert. Looked a little rough last night. I think he's great. I think Herbert's going to continue to be great. Ball placement's always been a thing for him, and sometimes it shows up, sometimes less so. So, I think he's going to continue to have a little bit of inconsistencies, but he's a stud. He's a prolific passer. He's going to keep throwing.
Yeah, there's no need to panic. He's
Native Ants wants to know the Steelers defense versus the Rams or the Colts defense versus the Browns. I like both those options, but I trust the Steelers defense more. Even though they've been a little bit inconsistent, I trust the Steelers just a little bit more than I do the Colts defense, which is now going to be missing Grover Jackson, I believe, and is just a little bit nicked up. So that's the way I would go. But do you have a difference?
Well, I'm going to talk about the Colts defense a little later in the show. But yeah, I don't have a preference as far as this week goes.
Sure. All right. Excellent. So I think it's time for the most important question that I utter each and every week, and the one that's the most anticipated question for those that listen. And that's, Jen, is it a good week to stream tight end?
It's an okay week. I wish I could say it's fantastic. It's fine. It's better than others.
It's fine. I like it.
It's fine. It's funny. My husband makes fun of me. I use that word and I hate that word and I use it anyway. Like when he says it to me, I get annoyed, but then I say it all the time. But yeah, it's a fine week to stream tight ends. It's not horrific, but there have been better. But yeah, let's get into it, shall we? Sure. So the first guy on my list here for tight ends is Luke Musgrave.
Yeah, Oregon State.
Luke Musgrave now plays for the Packers. Heading into Denver, he is 19% rostered at the moment. The Broncos are dead last in tight end adjusted fantasy points allowed. They're allowing 14.4 half PPR points to the position on a weekly basis. Packers are coming off a bye. He had 7 targets in week 5 before the bye. He might be, the little security blanket for Love. So I think he's a decent option this week if you need him. And then second guy I have is Michael Mayer, I guess another rookie against Chicago. He is 5% rostered. So he outsnapped and out-targeted Austin Hooper last week. I mean, is that a huge deal? Not really. However, he is emerging, as the Raiders, tight end one, which is good to see. The Bears are 22nd against the tight end. You got Brian Hoyer back there likely. So, he might need to use him kind of as a crutch as well. So I don't love him, but I think in a week where we've got 6 teams on buys and all of that, he's a fine option.
Okay.
Third guy, our producer Sal is probably party emoji in the background here, and that is Taysom Hill against the Jaguars. He is 7% rostered. So Juwan Johnson has a calf injury, and he hasn't practiced since week 4, and he still hasn't practiced as of today. Hill had 8 targets last week. He caught 7 for 49 yards. The Jags are a pass funnel defense, so I mean, I think Hill should have a decent week. I mean, we never know what to expect from Hill, right? I mean, he's not your traditional tight end. However, he should put some points on the board for you if you need him.
Excellent. Mayer, came into the draft as he was supposed to be really pro ready and all that. So I'm hoping he can be one of those rare productive rookie tight ends. Hasn't been a great start, but kind of a little bit of a coming out party last week, which is good. You mentioned Musgrave. Would you start Musgrave over Pat Freiermuth is the question we got from Terrell T.
Probably not.
Okay. All right.
Probably not.
I tend to start Pat Freiermuth. It tends to be what I do. And off the bye, I think he's going to be okay. It seems like he's healthy, so I agree with you.
Yeah, and he has a good matchup this week. I just wrote him up for something else. So, he's not streamable because he's higher rostered than our parameters. But yes, I would start Freiermuth. I keep wanting to say our little secret nickname for him, but I can't say it on air, so I'm just like Freiermuth.
So Endorphins wants to know who the higher priority ad is between Kareem Hunt and Craig Reynolds, and are we bailing on Keaton Mitchell? Lindorf, I'll start with Keaton Mitchell. I don't think Jen is going to disagree with me here. I'm holding him wherever I have huge rosters. But if I don't have big rosters, he's not somebody that I think I'm going to have clog up a space. I also am holding him in all the dynasty leagues because he is a little spark plug, and they're not exactly getting a ton of production out of the rushing game. But I don't think we're going to see him unseat Gus Edwards or Justice Hill anytime soon. I prefer Craig Reynolds because I think there's higher upside than Kareem Hunt, but I'm okay either way. What do you think, Jen?
Yeah, I think they're comparable. I will say about Mitchell, they released the Drake today. Kenyon Drake got released, so
that's right.
A little more less murky in there, but no.
Love the Drake.
But no, I think that I mean Craig Reynolds has been all right in limited spot starts that he needs to be there. Kareem Hunt, I think is coming on nicely, so I think they're comparable really. As far as, hold on, let me look at their schedule real quick. I don't want to say anything. I did have somebody come at me and tell me that I had lazy analysis because I didn't give the exact number. So God forbid, I don't want to do it again. And
we all know that your analysis is anything but lazy, Jen. We all know.
I mean, I can't memorize every single stat or schedule off the top of my head, but this person felt that I needed to.
In the meantime, SJMP wants to know if they should get Zach Evans or Royce Freeman on the Rams. I believe Zach Evans is going to be ahead of Royce Freeman on the depth chart. It's murky anyway, so if one outplays the other, that could change at any moment. But right now, I would view Zach Evans ahead of Royce Freeman on the depth chart. Says they need someone to replace Kyron, so that makes sense. Also, I'm just going to mention it out there. This isn't really a running back streaming episode, but SJMP, if you need someone off the waivers, like Justice Hill is available in a lot of leagues right now, and he's getting touches, getting catches, and the Ravens will probably have to throw more, which means the snap should lead Justice Hill's way. Just throwing it out there. Did you find your number, Jen?
No, because you were talking and I just bailed. So no. I agree. Whatever you said versus Hunter Reynolds, I'm on board. Let's move on.
All right. So I like Reynolds over Hunt, but you could go either way. Eric wants to know tight end conundrum. Which tight end should they drop? Hunter Henry, Jake Ferguson, and which should they pick up? Logan Thomas, Jonnu Smith, Mayer, or Hill? I'm gonna just let you handle that one, Jen, since you did more tight end homework this week than I did.
Yeah, I would drop Henry over Ferguson, and I would pick up Logan Thomas.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're talking rest of season, Logan Thomas, I think you can't go wrong. Jonnu Smith, I don't trust that situation there. I don't trust Arthur Smith, and I don't, Pitts is there as well, and Michael Meyer, he's had one good game. Taysom Hill is kind of a hit or miss. So I think Thomas is your safest bet as far as a tight end one moving forward. So if it were me, I'd drop Henry, grab Thomas.
Okay, excellent. Kevin wants to know if they should sit Christian Watson, Calvin Ridley, or Zay Flowers. For me, that's Watson. You could talk me into Ridley because he's been inconsistent, but Watson is kind of touchdown or bust. And even though he's got a great matchup on paper, Patrick Surtain is a really good corner and will probably cover Watson. So I sit Watson.
Agree.
Okay. Phoenix Steven, pick 2 to add. Curtis Samuel, Rashid Shaheed, Zach Evans, Elijah Mitchell, Jordan Mason, Craig Reynolds. I mean, depends what you need.
Yeah.
I kind of like all those guys to varying degrees. I would probably say Samuel and Mason or Shaheed and Mason is probably where I would go with that for short term, I guess. I don't know. Do you have another thought than that, Jen?
I mean, we already talked about Evans a little bit. We're both kind of not buying in completely. So like I would say for me, it would be probably Mason or Reynolds. And then between Samuel and Shaheed, that's tough because they both have some solid potential moving forward. Samuel, has kind of taken over that wide receiver spot over Dotson, and Shaheed's kind of a big player or nothing. So I'd go probably Samuel Mason or Samuel Reynolds for me.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Oscar Ramiro, Jordan Love, or CJ Stroud rest of season. Love's been too inconsistent. Stroud is throwing. I mean, the volume alone makes it Stroud for me.
Yeah, I knew you'd go there. And not because no, I don't. And not because you have any kind of bias against, or for CJ Stroud. It's just you recognize he's having a good season. We can't
and they're letting him throw. They're letting him throw the ball. So
yeah.
Curtis Samuel or Rashee Rice. Whew, that one's scary.
Oh, wow.
But you're killing me, SJMP, Curtis Samuel or Rashee Rice. I've been starting Rice because I have to in one of my leagues. And he's been okay. I hate to do that. I think I'd probably side with Rice. I think there's a little more upside there, but Samuel's a safer play. What do you think, Jen?
Yeah, they're both a hold your nose and put one in.
That's a tough one. Okay, Jen, I'm gonna go to the next most important question I ask you every week.
Oh, yeah.
Is it a good week to stream kicker?
It's a decent week to stream kicker. Nice. I don't hate it. There have been better, but there's definitely been worse. So we've got some options. Like we said earlier, we've got 6 teams on a bye. I think, there's a few that are non-issues as far as kicker goes, but there are a few good kickers that are on buys this week. So we need to find some replacements. So I've got 3 guys for you. First guy is Jason Myers for the Seahawks at home against the Cardinals. He is 21% rostered. So the Seahawks have a 26.25 implied team total, which is actually the 3rd highest on the slate this week, which is surprising, but it is what it is. And they're 8-point favorites in that NFC West battle. So the Cardinals are allowing 8.8 points to kickers every week. So if you need him, Jason Myers is my top guy there. Second guy is Anders Carlson in Denver. I don't normally love road kickers. I feel like this is a decent matchup at altitude. He's 1% rostered, so he's clearly there for anybody. They're 1.5-point favorites over the Broncos. They have a team implied total of 23.25. He's coming off some rest on his leg, if that entices you anymore. But yeah, so Anders is my second guy. Third guy is Cameron Dicker. This is a weird one because, like I said, normally I don't like road kickers and normally I don't like underdog kickers, and he is both. But the Chargers are going to Kansas City this week. He is 22% rostered. He's a decent start. I mean, they're 5.5-point underdogs, and they only have a 21.75 implied team total. But it is a division game, and it might get a little bit, of a shootout if both offenses can get going. So, yeah, he's my third guy.
Excellent. I love the kickers that you bring. Any bonus kickers this week?
I had one on the sheet and I took him off, but I'll throw him back out there anyway.
I want my bonus kicker this week.
All right. Yeah. I'm throwing him back out. Bonus was Joey Slye. Joey Slye in New York against the Giants. They only have a 20.75 implied team total. Not great, but they are 2-point favorites. He's only 1% rostered. It is once again, it's a division game, so you never know. If you're desperate in a big league, like an 18, 20 team league, whatever, Joey Slye is out there in 99% of leagues, and he'll get you some points.
I like it. See, I always like my bonus kicker, Jen. Jeff Benvenuto at 75 traded Najee Harris and Chris Godwin for Brian Robinson in a non-PPR. Was it a good trade? They still have Puka and Watson at wide receiver. It's a lot to give up, but I don't hate it. Brian Robinson is getting all the work in Washington, and he's even catching some balls. So the offense seems to be getting better every week in Washington. I don't hate the trade. It is a lot to give up, though. Godwin, I think you might miss Godwin a little bit, but I'm good with Robinson. All right. And SJMP wants to know if they should trade Adam Thielen for Alvin Kamara and Puka Nacua. That's tough. Non-PPR. So, I don't know. It depends how bad you need a running back.
I would probably do it.
Yeah.
I just, while I appreciate this Thielen renaissance, I don't know that it's sustainable for the entire season. Kamara is pretty fresh off his suspension. And Nacua, I think, is going to be fine even with cutbacks. So for me, I would do that.
Sure. I like it. Sounds good. A little sell high here. Before we get to defense streamers, I want to take a minute to talk about Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy sports made easy. Go to prizepicks.com/accurate and use code accurate for a first deposit match up to $100. For week 7, I've got 3 that I like. I've got some numbers to throw at you, Jen. Okay.
Hold on. Before you do that real quick,
yes.
I'm so sorry to jump in, but I know that our producer Sal had a kicker question that was on the sheet that you did not. So I'm just I'll throw it out there. He wants to know if Tyler Bass is droppable. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to just do it real quick before you get to your next segment.
Sure.
So he is actually kicker 12. I'm sorry. He's kicker 11 on the season. So he's not having a horrible season. He did miss 2 field goals last week. They were 52 and 53 yards in the blowing wind. So we can't really get mad there. But yeah, I mean, honestly, as I say, any kicker is droppable. Even Justin Tucker, they just are. You can always stream and get the points that you need. So yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of Tyler Bass and I like him. And I think he'll be fine if you don't want to drop him. But I guess my answer overall is that all kickers are droppable.
All kickers are droppable. I like it. So back to the Prize Picks once again.
Yes.
It's my fault. I overlooked it. Once again, go to prizepicks.com/accurate. Use the code accurate for a deposit match up to $100. I've got 3 that I like for week 7. I've got some numbers that I want to throw at you right now.
Okay.
Stephon Diggs is at 86.5 receiving yards. I want to read you the wide receiver 1 totals against the Patriots this year, right? So none of the wide receiver 1s have eclipsed 86.5 receiving yards in a game against them. And that list includes A.J. Brown, Tyreek Hill, Garrett Wilson, CeeDee Lamb, Chris Olave, and Devontae Adams. None of them have. Like Tyreek Hill was 5 catches, 40 yards against this Patriots defense, right? So I'm going to go less than 86.5 receiving yards for Stephon Diggs. And on the flip side of that, Gabriel Davis more than 40.5 receiving yards. Let me read you the Patriots, the wide receiver 2s against the Patriots, okay? All of them except for Allen Lazard eclipsed 40.5 receiving yards. Jacoby Myers, Michael Thomas, Michael Gallup, Jalen Waddle, and Devontae Smith. So Lazard's the only one, and he had 39 yards. So I'm going to say more than 40.5 receiving yards for Gabriel Davis. I just think it's a week where the wide receiver 2 does better. Now, on Prize Picks, you need at least 2 different teams in order to do an entry. So that's why I grabbed a third one. I like Derek Carr to have more than 0.5 interceptions. He's got a pick in half his games this season. The Jags picked off Minshew 3 times last season. They're number 1 in forced turnovers this year. So Derek Carr, more than 0.5 interceptions. Don't forget, go to prizepicks.com/accurate. Use code accurate for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks is daily fantasy sports made easy. So back to streaming. Let's hit defenses here. I think it's a really good week to stream defenses.
Nice.
Yeah, I keep saying the Jaguars. I feel like a broken record because I just say Sam Howell and the Jaguars every week. But, I mean, the Jags, they're still only rostered in 27% of Yahoo leagues. They're tied for 6th in sacks. The Saints. They face the Saints. The Saints are tied for 6th in sacks allowed. Jags are number 1 in the league with 15 forced turnovers. Aside from crushing the woeful Patriots in week 5, the Saints have struggled. The 3 out of the past 4 games, they failed to eclipse 17 points. Derek Carr and the offense are frustrated enough to the point where we're getting like news stories about like how they're talking to each other and the meetings they're having. And everyone's like, oh, we've had positive discussions. And oh, I already apologized to the offensive coordinator for yelling at him. So Saints look like they're a little bit of a mess. The Jaguars defense is good. They're doing well. So Jags, go grab the Jags. You could probably hold them for a little while. The other thing, everyone dropped the Browns for the bye week. Nobody picked them up last week because they were facing San Francisco, but they're really good, and they're rostered in only 28% of leagues. Myles Garrett has 5.5 sacks in 5 games. Gardner Minshew was sacked 3 times, had 3 interceptions and a lost fumble against the Jags last week, so the Browns get to eat on Gardner Minshew this week. No offense, Sal, to our producer. The Browns held Brock Purdy to a touchdown, a pick, and 125 yards in the 49ers' first loss last season. So, yeah. Browns defense should be really solid. Good secondary, good defensive line. And then I kind of like Washington at the Giants. Now, I like Tyrod Taylor. I actually think the offense is running okay, but, you know, they play the Giants. They're 30th in AFPA to opposing defenses this year, and Washington is tied for 6th in the league in sacks. The Giants are 2nd in the league in sacks allowed. It's one of those not a great defense, but a really good matchup kind of thing. So if you can't get the Jags or the Browns, then I don't hate grabbing the Washington Commanders for this week. So that's where I'm at there. And then let's hit a question. Kevin, start 2. Let's hear Walker, Barkley, Cook, or Kamara. So Ken Walker's a must start for me against Arizona. Yes. And I'd have to start Barkley. I mean, if he's healthy, you got to start. I like James Cook. I like Alvin Kamara. You could talk me into Kamara there, but I'd probably go Barkley. What do you think, Jen?
I may go Kamara over Barkley. I think I'd go Walker Kamara. But then again, I mean, the Jags are, like you just said, I mean, the Jags are tough against the run. I think they're 6th in adjusted fantasy points allowed. So I don't hate Barkley, but I would probably, if it was my team, I'd go Kamara.
Sure. Yep. Makes perfect sense to me. Let's see here. So, Jen, I'm always looking ahead to the next week and beyond when I'm setting my waiver wire claims on Tuesday night. So who are the secret stash players I should be looking at this week?
All right. So the first secret stash player I have this week is actually a defense, even though we just talked about him. But, you know, I was just looking over our 4for4 hotspots tool earlier today when looking for stashes for my stash article. The Colts defense. I know you said they're a little banged up, and I get that. However, their next 5 matchups are ridiculous. So leading up to they have a bye week 11. So week 7 through 11, they have the Jags, Browns, Saints, Panthers, and then Patriots. All are 23rd or worse in defensive adjusted fantasy points allowed. So, you know, they're only 10% rostered. If you're tired of I mean, we hope you're not tired of the streaming carousel, or else you wouldn't join us every week. But if you are tired of streaming defenses for a little bit, you can grab the Colts and ride them for 5 weeks, because they're playing 5 pretty bad offenses that are not scoring a lot, offenses that are allowing a lot of defensive points. So that's my first stash my first stash player / entity, whatever.
Excellent. Excellent. Before you get to the other one, let's hit our super chat. Thank you so much, Kevin S., for asking a super chat question. We really appreciate you, and we appreciate your support. Kevin S. is thinking of targeting Joe Burrow during the bye. It's one of those leagues where the cupboard is bare. They've lost Anthony Richardson and Russell Wilson. Obviously, pretty suspect thoughts. I like trying to buy low on Joe Burrow. I think it's a really good idea. He's starting to look healthy to me. So if you can get him, if somebody's selling Burrow at a discounted rate, I'm very, very interested in acquiring him. I think the rest of the season, he's going to be real solid. Jen, your thoughts on Joe Burrow rest of the season?
Yes, I would target him, especially if you've lost Anthony Richardson and you're only looking at Russell Wilson. I would give a swing there for Burrow for sure. I think, like you said, he's starting to look healthy. The offense as a whole is starting to roll. So yes, for me.
Excellent. And go get Sam Howell if he's sitting there on your waivers right now. Although he's probably not. If you're
If
bringing
it's one of those leagues, he's
it's
probably not.
absolutely one of those leagues. Thank you very much again, Kevin. Jen, sorry to interrupt you. I want to hear your long-term stashes now.
All good. So my long-term stashes, these are both they're stashes, right? And I try to give out players that are not on every waiver article that comes out in the next day or so. So the first guy I have is Ray McCloud, wide receiver for the 49ers. He's only 1% rostered. Deebo Samuel's day-to-day. Looks like he's probably going to be okay, but you never know, right? He is day-to-day at the moment. Ray McCloud had 71% of snaps with Samuel out. He even took on 2 design rushing plays a la Deebo Samuel. So, he's there. He's free. If you have a spot at the end of your bench, he's easily droppable if he doesn't pan out, but he's one stash. Other guy I have is Trey McBride, tight end for the Cardinals. He's also 1% rostered. He had the same number of targets as Zach Ertz last week. And, even though it was garbage time situation, but still, they both had 5 targets. McBride may get more looks as the season rolls along. So you might want to just grab him now in case Ertz starts to slow down as older players sometimes do as the season rolls on. But yeah, same situation. I'm not saying he's going to be this fantastic guy right away, but he is a guy to stash in case something happens. Easily droppable.
Excellent. I think we're all hoping Trey McBride kind of takes that step. Nothing against Zach Ertz, but
he's drafted
with so many expectations.
And right now and I think a lot of people drafted him, but he's 1% rostered, so he's out there.
Excellent. Bronson Hale wants to know if they should trade Matt Stafford and Geno Smith for George Kittle in a 2-quarterback league where they have Brock Purdy and Trevor Lawrence. They have Luke Musgrave and Logan Thomas. So basically, is Kittle a big enough upgrade over Musgrave and Logan Thomas to warrant getting rid of 2 out of 4 quarterbacks in a 2-quarterback league? That's tough. I think the value is fair, but in 2-quarterback leagues, quarterbacks are pretty inflated in value, and Musgrave and Thomas aren't bad. So I might hold tight and see if you can use Stafford and Geno to get a different trade package, but that's how I feel.
That's exactly what I say. See if you can get just even different skill players. Because like you said, I think Musgrave and Logan Thomas are serviceable. And Kittle he's back on his every other week schedule right now. So you're not going to get a consistent output from him every week.
Absolutely. That said, I do like Kittle's potential with Samuel out. I do think Kittle will get more looks, but that doesn't change the way I feel there. Okay, Hanson wants to know if we'd rather have Bijan Robinson or Travis Etienne rest the season in a full PPR. I like them both a lot. Etienne leads the league in carries, and that doesn't seem to be going away. So I'd side with Etienne. But Jen, it's up to you.
Yeah, I would as well. I like Bijan, and I feel like that offense is just so tough to figure out, and he's not getting the consistent volume that we thought he was going to get coming into the season. So, and Etienne is. So I think that's your answer, or at least our answer.
Kevin S. followed up, said they don't like Sam Howell's schedule pass this week. I was thinking if he needed someone to cover Joe Burrow, if you acquired Joe Burrow, needed someone to cover this week. That's kind of what I meant by that. But I get that. Bike Walkers MTB, thoughts on Aaron Jones this week? If he's healthy, I like him. I
hope he is.
Yeah, you need a backup plan just in case he's not. But
he has I mean, the Broncos are dead last against the running backs. So if he goes, he goes. But let's hope.
Absolutely. Ray wants to know Carr or Ritter to stream this week. I just think I just don't trust Derek Carr. Like, something doesn't smell good there. Not that I trust Desmond Ritter, but I feel like Ritter at least might run in a touchdown. Whereas Carr, if he struggles and throws 3 picks, he might be, it's kind of done for the day. So we have Carr ranked higher, and it makes sense to go with Carr. It makes more sense, but I don't know, Ritter. It's been good for 2 weeks, and he's always that rushing touchdown threat. So I'd go with
Not a great matchup though against Tampa Bay. I don't know.
Neither have good matchups though. So
no, I think Jacksonville's a little better, but not really. I mean, they're both pretty gross. Let's be real. If you're putting them in your lineup, but like you said, we have Carr ranked higher as far as 4 for 4. Yeah.
Yep. So that makes perfect sense. Let's see here. Jen, I had a stash question for you.
Yeah.
I ask, are you stashing Malik Willis, or I'll say Will Levis? Like, either one of those players, are you looking at stashing in any league format?
I think if you're in a super flex, you could think about it. I think in a standard 1-quarterback league, no. I think we need a little more. I mean, last week was, exciting, right? He let it come back, but I think the majority of that was Tajay Spears' work, not really his. So It was nice. It was a nice outing for him, and I feel like we need to see a little more. But I think if you're, in dynasty, obviously it's a good thing. But I mean, if you're in a super flex or a 2 QB league, you might want to stash him if you have the room. I think in a 1 QB league, no, I wouldn't even give it a thought yet.
I have such a hard time because Willis, he has like that massive rushing upside, but we just haven't seen it, and he's had opportunities, so it's tough. It's really, really tough. I'm rooting for the kid, though. I know he's got somebody breathing down his neck, so I'm kind of hoping he pulls it out. So, Jen, any final thoughts before we go today?
Final thoughts? No, I mean I can't believe we're in week 7. Like we're basically halfway through the fantasy season. I mean, not the real season, but the. Yeah. No, I have no final thoughts. Yeah, I'm excited.
Looking right along. Every year just flies. You blink and it's week 10. That's how
it's a little of both, right? Like you blink and it goes by fast from like a fan and football perspective, but from a work perspective and the grind every week.
True.
I feel like it's week 16 already, but from watching football and just the league, it's fun, and this season's fun. There's more parity, I feel like, than in years past. It's fun.
Also, lots of fun.
I mean, I was going to say, look at you, man. You are top to bottom. Are you wearing like Dolphins pajama pants under there?
I have Dolphins underwear, Dolphins pajama, Dolphins shoes and socks and everything. No, I had to. I was very excited watching the game this weekend. I had to do it.
No, I hear you. It's funny. My family has season tickets, and my sister had to go. As you know, my nephew is going to be playing for Pitt next year.
Yeah, that's exciting.
So he was up there last week for homecoming. My sister took him, and it was exciting because they actually won. They've had a rough season, so Pitt won. But she didn't get to go to the Dolphin game, which was a bummer, and she's a good luck charm, so I was concerned. But they didn't need her. They were good.
Excellent. All right, listeners, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast. Thank you to everyone that listened, everyone that tuned in, everyone that joined us in the chat. We appreciate you. We're here every Tuesday evening at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so come join us throughout the season live on the 4for4 YouTube channel to discuss streamers that'll get you through your fantasy season. You can follow us on Twitter at Jen Akins NFL and at 2guysbrandon. Thanks so much for checking us out, and have a good day.